All right, welcome back to Sports Talk with Dylan Marsh. And after 5 weeks of waiting, the speculation is over after today. The final college football playoff rankings are out. This Sunday, we will finally find out who is going to be in a college football playoff. Half the country is going to be pissed. Half the country is going to say it's okay. So let's get ready for that. And then close to a month of waiting and anticipation for all the bowl games to hurry up and get past us. But this is Conference Championship Week in college football. And as always, I'm joined with my brother, JD.
What's going on, y'all? Glad to be here.
All right. So let's go ahead and try to make this a short one because we don't have a lot of games. We're just going to talk about most of the big conference games, championship games this week. And we're going to go ahead and start off with the Conference USA championship game between the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs, who are 8-4, and the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, who are 9-3. So, JD, you used to go to Tech. So
yes, I did.
I'll let you go ahead and go on this one.
Oh, no, Dylan, I want you to go first.
Okay, well, if you want me to be very honest, I'm going to go with, Trent Taylor, Shreveport native here, where we have this podcast. 113 receptions, now the school record leader in receptions, who I think is going to get drafted probably in the mid-rounds of the NFL draft. Extremely athletic, talented receiver. Not very tall. What is he, about 5'10"?
Yeah, runs the most precise routes I've ever seen in my life.
Exactly. And a hell of a receiver. 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns on the year. But with Higgins at Tech's quarterback, looking like Phil Robertson out there with 3,700 yards, 34 touchdowns, and only about 7 interceptions on the year. But the Hilltoppers got a quarterback in Mike White who is on fire. I think his name is.
This game is played in Western Kentucky.
Yeah, it's in Western Kentucky. Yeah, this is a bowl game that doesn't have a neutral site or whatever. But White for Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, 3,600 yards, 31 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But the running game for the Hilltoppers, I think, is a little bit better than the Bulldogs' rushing attack. But I'm going to go with a gut feeling here, and it might be a little biased. But I'm going to take the Bulldogs. I'm going to take Louisiana Tech in this one. I think Taylor. I think this is second to last game. He seems like he's the one. He's the type of player that shines in big moments, which is why I think he will succeed in the NFL. And I think the scouts will see that. And I think the Bulldogs defense, of what I've heard, I haven't been able to go watch them this year, but I've heard their defense is pretty spot on this year for what they usually are. So give me the Bulldogs on a gut feeling on this one, and also because Western Kentucky's 9-3, but 3 years ago they were like seriously the worst team in college football.
I went to Tech. I worked with the football team, Dylan. I know a lot of these kids that are playing right now. And the game being in Western Kentucky, Tech never plays well when they go there. I don't know why. They just never do. But with Higgins slinging the ball around, the way he's throwing it, and Trent Taylor being his number one target, with Henderson on the outside also, and you also have Jared Kraft running the ball very well. The way they just struggled against Southern Miss on the road last week, where if Tech would have won that ball game, the game would have been played here in Shreveport, Dylan, for the Conference USA.
It would have been played in Shreveport?
Yes, it would have been played at Independence Stadium because they are now starting construction to add more seating at Louisiana Tech, at Joe Alton Stadium. But even as a loyal former student at Louisiana Tech, I know Tech doesn't play well in Kentucky when they go to the western part of it. So I'm going to have to take Western Kentucky.
Wow, okay,
game.
So you really are going for the picks now since you're just one game behind me now.
Oh, yes, I am.
All right, and update on the since we didn't say it a minute ago, update on the score predictions now. JD beat me by one game last week. JD went 9-4. I went 8-5. We both picked Washington State to beat Washington, but we all know that did not happen. So I am up on JD 72-39. JD is 71-40. So basically we still have the bowl games to go, so that's going to get crazy.
Oh yeah, our records are going to go. We will, for our listeners, we will also have a Bowl Mania group for you to join and go up against me and Dylan.
Yes, that is true. We will do that. And I've never really done it before, so I'm actually excited about that. So JD's going to get that all set up, and we'll put it on social media, all that good stuff. I'll let him handle all that because he knows everything about that. But, all right, Zach, so let's go ahead. What is our next football game?
Western Michigan versus Ohio State.
And this is the Mid-Atlantic Conference Championship game.
Also known as the MAC. The MAC Championship game with the 12-0 Western Michigan Broncos.
Getting no respect.
Aren't they the Broncos?
Yes, they are.
The
Ranked
Broncos.
17th. No respect. Ranked 12-0.
Well, JD, they're in the MAC.
Obviously,
okay.
Dylan, that was sarcasm.
Okay, I know. But this is kind of like Central Michigan back whenever I forgot what the dude's name was, the quarterback who was the year after Tim Tebow. Everyone thought he was the next Tim Tebow. And I think Central Michigan went like 12-1 in 1 year, and they got to like 15. And everyone's like, they should play in a big bowl game. And then they lost the bowl game in, I want to say they lost in the, maybe not the Capital One Bowl. I can't remember which one it was, but they lost by 30 points when
they got
played a big name team. So I don't believe that they're not getting respect. I think it's because of their conference, but we will see because they do have the best record in the group of 5. So if they win this, if they win the MAC championship, they will be in a New Year's Six bowl or at least like a big old BCS bowl. So
I wouldn't say a BCS bowl. I would put them more along the lines of an at-large bid to, let's say, like a Capital One Bowl or an Outback Bowl.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah, a BCS Bowl is like the Orange Bowl, Fiesta Sugar,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Rose Bowl.
They have a chance to make that if everything basically stays the way it is.
So you're saying the old New Year Six?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they have a chance of getting to. But, of course, Ohio's 8-4, the Bobcats of Ohio. I'm easily going with Western Michigan because they've proven themselves that they're 12-0, and they destroy these the teams in the MAC and smaller teams like that. Ohio is always a good football team. They are a team that always shows up in big games, but I don't see that happening here because of Western Michigan's quarterback in Terrell. He's got 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, only 1 interception on the year, JD.
Wow.
1 interception on the year
against MAC
in the
defenses.
MAC. In the MAC, that's extremely impressive. But they do have a 1,200-yard rusher, and also has 12 touchdowns on the year with Franklin. I'm taking Western Michigan to blow out Ohio. I think this is going to be probably a 21-point ball game. I think that they're real for where they're from, but I don't think they could hold up in. If I've heard people say they should be in the college football playoff because they're undefeated, but they don't understand what the college football playoff is about. So I will tell y'all, okay, we will get talking about the college football playoff and the whole Big Ten controversy here later on.
We will pick who we think will be selected in.
All right, Jay, who do you think is going to go next?
Huh?
Who do you think is going next? I mean, I'm sorry, who do you think is going to win this ball game?
Oh, I'm going Western Michigan too. I think they have too much. I think they are a great team for their conference, but if they were to face a Power 5 conference, they would just get swacked, I believe. Yeah. But, I have Western Michigan winning this game too.
Okay. All right. Zach, let's tell us what the next game is.
Colorado versus number 4 Washington.
Washington. All right.
Like number 8 Colorado. Dylan, how weird does that sound to hear that again?
Well, since Colorado left the Big 12 stranded, they were getting their butt handed to them in the Pac-12. I remember one time I was at a gym late night working out, and I sat on the couch because I couldn't move my legs. So I was staring at the TV, and I think it was a Friday night game. They were losing to USC 62-3.
Yeah.
What the heck, Colorado? But now they're back, number 8 in the college football playoff, going up to number 4. This Washington 11-1, Colorado 10-2, and one of their losses was to Michigan, which is a great loss for them at the spot that they're at.
And on the road to USC.
Yeah, exactly. So they've got great quality losses. Washington, yeah, I guess you can say it's a quality loss. I don't know. But
to USC at home, but it was at home.
Yeah. But okay. I heard Colorado's quarterback's name. I do not know how to pronounce this. Is it LaFoe? Lefau. I don't know how they pronounced it.
Lefau.
But this guy is the real deal. His stats are not amazing, but this dude is a freaking playmaker. He reminds me of a Baker Mayfield, but they don't use him as much because they rely on Patrick Lindsey, their running back, who has 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns on the year, but also has 211 carries. So he's like the workhorse for the Buffaloes. But Lefau, what I noticed with him, he's able to scramble out of the pocket. He makes plays. He throws on the run great. The receivers for Colorado, they really know how to break out of their routes, however you want to say it.
Routes.
Yeah, I hear people say routes. Okay. But they break out of their routes so well to get open on broken plays like that to where Washington's defense is great, but I'm excited to see what this offense does against the Huskies. And then going on to Washington's side and how great their defense is. I think their defense is very, very good. They allow 200 yards a game, 201 passing yards a game, and only just under 130 rushing yards a game. And so with both of these teams all around 320 yards allowing a game, but then also Washington's offense is is getting close to 500 yards a game. So if you look at the stats and on paper, I see Washington, you think Washington's going to win. They're pretty close on paper. But I liked what I saw in Colorado. And
I've been telling you all year, Don.
Where is this game played? I do not know where the Pac-12 championship is played. But if it's like the Conference USA where Washington plays,
it's not.
Okay, if it's not that,
I'm pretty sure it's in the Rose Bowl.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, I'm taking Washington to be safe. But I would not be shocked if Colorado ends up upsetting Washington just on the sole fact of I loved what I saw in Lefau. I loved what I saw in the Colorado defense. I really liked the way that they committed themselves to the game. They one thing I was talking to my grandpa that I noticed was very well. They know how to tackle. They're not a soft defensive team like, let's say, like in Oklahoma. They wrap up and they hit hard. But this is going to be, I think, the game of the week. I think this is going to be the game to watch this week.
It's
in my eyes.
in Santa Clara, California.
Okay,
so it's at Levi Stadium.
Okay, so yeah, I got Washington winning this one just to be safe if I want to win these picks. But do not be shocked if Colorado upsets Washington.
Yeah, Dylan. We disagree again, my friend.
Nice.
I am going with Colorado. I've been a believer in them since I saw them play Michigan the way they did. Even though on the scoreboard it seemed like they got blown out, but really they played well. And it was just early in the season. Michigan was rolling on all cylinders. And it just seems to me that Colorado has just came together since that. They struggled against USC, but then they pretty much just got all the pieces together to me. And like I've said, I don't think Washington. I think Washington State just had a bad game against them.
Okay, yeah, I will say that, but then also shows how Washington State didn't play great, but I don't think that's why they lost. I think the reason they didn't play great was because Washington's defense actually showed how good they are.
I will agree, Washington's defense is good, but I believe that Colorado's defense is good enough to make enough plays to keep them in the game and pull out a victory in Santa Clara this week. So I'm going Colorado.
Hey, I applaud you having the balls to do that, but I'm not downing that pick at all. That's a great pick. So, all right, Zach, tell us, what is the next game for us?
Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma.
All right. Well, I think you skipped one, but we'll go back to that. The Big 12 championship game, which isn't technically the Big 12 championship game. It's for the Big 12, but it's not the championship game because the Big 12 is completely out of whack, and they took away the championship game when everyone left. But this game is to clinch the Big 12 and for I think it's a spot in the Sugar Bowl. So we got the Oklahoma Sooners and Oklahoma State Cowboys, and we have one of the biggest in-state rivalries in the country, I believe. Living in Edmond, Oklahoma, right next to Norman, and seeing these fans just go after each other during this week. This game is unlike any other, especially with just how well the teams are playing this year, just like Michigan, Ohio State. But with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about this game, Jay, because I know this one's very, very close to our hearts, as you always say in every single podcast when we talk about Oklahoma. But Oklahoma's defense is giving up 443 yards a game, which I think is probably close to the best in the Big 12.
Oklahoma State, 441.
Exactly. Oklahoma State, 441. I think Oklahoma's third behind Oklahoma State and West Virginia. So, with that being said, it's in Norman at Oklahoma, but then you look at the offensive stats right there. 500 yards a game for Oklahoma State and then 550 for Oklahoma. And Kyle Rudolph is a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong. He's
Mason Rudolph.
What'd I say?
Kyle.
Geez, see, I get everything. For some reason, I was thinking about Texas A&M just because I was thinking about.
You mean the Minnesota Vikings?
I don't know what I'm thinking of. What did I say? I don't know.
Kyle
Yes,
Rudolph.
that's probably what it was. I have him on fantasy team, and he saved me this week. But Mason Rudolph is not a playmaker like Baker Mayfield is. Baker Mayfield is just like LaFoe from Colorado, who gets out of the pocket and makes plays on his feet, throws on the run. Best completion percentage in the whole country was 71% completion rating percentage. That is incredible, honestly. 71%, especially the plays he makes where he's throwing on the run.
He's 75% on 30 yards or more down the field.
That's because he's got D.D. Westbrook, though. And that's my next point with the receivers that we have in D.D. Westbrook. And D.D. Westbrook, I think, should be invited to New York with Mayfield and Jackson. I think that should be the three to get invited to New York. But D.D. Westbrook, with 70 receptions, 1,300 receiving yards, and I think it's 15 touchdowns on the year. I've never seen anything like that in a long time in college football, because last year they had D.D. Westbrook, they had Sterling Shepard, they had then they threw to Mixon out of the backfield. But this year it really seems to be just Westbrook who gets all the passes to him, because, well, don't get me wrong, he never drops the ball, it seems like. And I think he's going to have a huge game. I think him and Mayfield are going to have a huge game. And I think Mixon's going to have a 120 yard. I think the Oklahoma offense is going to dismantle this Cowboys defense in a very close shootout. I say this game. I say both teams get over 45 points. It's going to be an exciting bedlam game. But I think Oklahoma's defense, even though they lost Micah Quick with being kicked off the team by Bob Stoops, with undisclosed team rule violations, whatever, but the best cornerback for Oklahoma, one of the best cornerbacks for Oklahoma, got kicked off the team. But I don't think that's going to affect too much. I think next guy's going to come up. And, again, it might be biased of me to pick this, but I'm taking Oklahoma just on the sole fact because it's in Norman, and Oklahoma always plays great against Oklahoma State. It's always a great football game. And in Norman, it's just going to be crazy. It's bedlam. So give me Oklahoma.
So you're taking Oklahoma, Dylan?
Yes.
You're saying the reason why you're taking Oklahoma is because it's in Norman?
Not the only reason. I'm saying that's going to be a factor.
Yeah, the last two times they played in Norman, Dylan, it's been decided by 3 points in both of them in overtime.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be a great game. That's what
it's going to be a great game, but I'm right there with you. I think the connection Mayfield has found with D.D. Westbrook is
they're
I think it's stronger than when he had with Shepard.
Ooh, yeah, maybe.
I really do.
Well, Shepard had Trevor Knight, and I think he was there with Landry Jones too.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is I think his connection with D.D. Westbrook is stronger than he was with Shepard last year.
Yeah,
and I think with Mark Andrews coming into the picture, that just makes the offense more versatile. Mm-hmm. And I think that Oklahoma's in for a huge day on offense. I'm going over 600 yards. I think total gained. I think Oklahoma's defense is actually going to step up in this game. And they're going to find themselves. And I have Oklahoma win this game big, Dylan. I think they're going to win a big game.
Like a blowout?
I'm going 21 points or more.
All right.
I think it's going to be a big game. Big win. I think Mayfield's going to throw for over 400 yards. And he's going to... I'm calling 450 4 touchdown passes, 3 of them to Westbrook, and he's going to complete over 80% of his passes.
All right, that's a bold statement right there.
I think he's going to light up this secondary of Oklahoma State.
Okay. Well, no bias there at all, right, Judy?
No, I'm putting my bias aside. That's what I really think is going to happen, just from the sole thought of looking at game film. If you watch Oklahoma State this year, their defense it's one of the best in the Big 12, but what is defense in the Big 12?
Well, that becomes a big deciding factor within the final 2 minutes of the game, though.
True. But I just have, it's more like a gut feeling.
Yeah, I understand. I understand why you're picking that too. I was kind of being sarcastic, but whatever. All right, Zach, what's our next game coming up?
It will be Temple versus number 19 Navy.
All right, the American Athletic Conference Championship. And like I've said all year, I'm a huge fan of this Navy football team. And as you know, JD, I really love the way that they run the triple option. I love how disciplined Navy is. I love the way it's run because it's a military school. They have to have discipline. They hardly ever get flagged, which is a great thing to have in a defense. But when you run an offense like the triple option, most of the time you're going to have success if you run it perfectly. But then if you go up against a team like, I don't know, like if you go up against like a Nick Saban, there's no way you're going to get 200 yards on a defense like Alabama. But the triple option with the Navy, they've perfected it over all these years with Roger Staubach and everybody who's played at Navy. Just, I think this is. I just love Navy so much to where I'm taking Navy in this one to win the American Conference because of discipline and also their 470 yards a game. But when you look at Temple, their defense has only given up 273 yards a game. But I just don't see Navy with – Navy, whenever they're ranked, Navy always seems to do great. They really do. And so with the triple option going up against Temple and the way Navy and especially with Worth, their quarterback, with what is that? That's 32 total touchdowns on a year, 25 rushing touchdowns. And I don't know. I think he's going to be the next Keenan Reynolds. The way I watched him play against Houston, he's a great football player, great football IQ. I could tell that for sure, and just a brilliant kid. So I'm taking him. I'm taking him and the Navy midshipman in this one.
All righty. Not so fast, my friend.
All righty.
I am going Temple in this game. I love the defense that they have this year, giving up 127 rushing yards. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to play a huge factor in stopping this triple option, even though it is one of the most difficult offenses in all of football to stop.
Yeah.
But I think Temple is going to be hyped for this game. Their only losses this year have been to quality opponents. They barely lost to Penn State.
I know. Yes.
You realize that?
I know. I saw that on the schedule, yeah.
Yeah, so that is why I have a feeling Temple is coming ready to play in this game, and I feel like they are going to give it to Navy.
All right, we will be talking about Navy on our last game, as we're going to talk about the only game next week, which is Army versus Navy. But let's go ahead, Zachary, let's move on to a pretty big one in my eyes, which I think might get overlooked.
Alabama versus number 15 Florida.
All right, well, of course everyone knows Alabama's number 1, right?
Yep.
And with Alabama going up against number 15 Florida. Alabama, let's see.
the Georgia Dome.
You know what? I haven't even looked at Alabama's stats before this. I'm going to look at this real quick. Alabama's defense allows 246 yards a game, 68 rushing yards a game. Holy crap. And they Luke Del Rio out for the year. He's still he's been out for what, like 3 weeks now?
Yep.
And he's still the leading passer for the team, even though he only had 8 touchdowns and had 8 interceptions. But Florida's defense is no slouch, as you saw when they took on LSU. But it's definitely no Alabama.
No slouch, and they give up over 30 points to Florida State.
Yes, Jitty. That's Florida State with DeAndre Francois and Dalvin Cook, who I think is actually the best running back in the country. It's just overlooked. I think Florida State's very overlooked. I think they're just having a bad season. I really do. Their defense is not holding up at all. But I think Florida State's a great football team. But Of course, I'm taking Alabama in this one. And Alabama, I don't think they're going to crush Florida. I don't think they're going to put up as many points as everyone thinks they are. They might because Nick Saban's a freaking football genius, and he might pick apart that offense.
Do you want to know what
Let me freaking finish it. All right, but one thing that's going to get to me is I don't know if Alabama does this because okay. Let's use this as a factor. You had Tom Herman go to play Memphis the day after everyone thought he was hired to go be the coach at LSU, and then Houston just sits there and falls apart, loses to Memphis, right? So I don't think it's going to happen with Alabama because I don't think these players really get connected to coaches at all because they're just there to go pro. This isn't like a Houston team where it's a family type of thing. So I'm just saying it could be a factor with Kiffin. All the rumors about Kiffin going to LSU or possibly taking a head coaching job somewhere. But with that being said, I think Alabama's going to win, but not in a fashion everyone thinks they're going to. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it'll be okay. When I say I don't think it's going to be a blowout, I'll say maybe 14-point victory for Alabama.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a blowout for Alabama.
No.
That would be what they call where Saban just looks disappointed in the worst performance in his career, he would think. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking at the money line, Dylan. Florida is plus 1,200. That means if you were to bet $100, you would win $1,200 on Florida if they were to win the game.
Wow, I'd actually take that.
No,
Just
to win the game. You
Yes.
would have to bet $100 to win $1,200.
I know.
You would bet $100 on Florida to win this game.
Well, if I had $100 to spend, yeah, why not? Just in case.
Okay, but no, I'm definitely. I don't think there's any chance Florida wins this game. They won't be able to move the ball on the Alabama defense because Florida, for one, can't move the ball. And Alabama's just going to take any chance they have of that. And then Florida's defense is good, but it's going to get worn down from being put in such bad spots by the Alabama defense that it's going to implode on them. And you said it's not going to be a blowout. Dylan, I'm thinking this is going to be like a 41-3 victory by Alabama.
I wouldn't be shocked. That crap happens all the time. But no,
I just have a strong. The sole reason is because Florida can't move the ball this year. Mm-hmm. If Florida had some type of offense, I would totally agree with you beating a 14-point ball game. But I just don't see it happening.
Okay, but like what you were saying with Alabama's defense, the one thing about Alabama is what they've been ever since Saban got there. You cannot make a mistake against the Crimson Tide because once you make a mistake, that's when the game's over. Let's take LSU for example. When was basically their first big mistake when they played LSU?
The first big mistake that for LSU was, it really wasn't a mistake, but Devin White, he let the ball go behind him and didn't go into the end zone. Bama downed it on like the 5.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
That was the mistake that LSU made.
The smallest things Alabama's going to take advantage of. And it was a 10-0 victory for Alabama, but starting from there, and then when the offensive line started breaking down, let Etling get hit, that's even a small mistake right there.
Well, no, what it was is, I'll tell you with that Alabama-LSU game, is the reason why it was 0-0 into the fourth was because Alabama started driving at the end of the third, and then they scored into the fourth. Am I right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
They scored right in the fourth.
What it was is LSU had the field position. Alabama was starting on their own 15. LSU was averaging starting on their own 35.
Okay, well, a big thing I was talking about when I was talking about mistakes.
And then
was not changing offense up they have all season and then going back to what they usually do against Alabama every single year. They ran the ball too much.
The mistake that Devin White made by letting the ball go over his head, could have caught it on the 15, caught a fair catch and all that, but Alabama downed it on the 5, and that flipped the field position, put too much strain on that LSU defense late in the game, and that's what caused LSU to finally collapse.
So I'm assuming you're taking Bama.
Yeah, I'm taking.
I'm gonna take it and write that down.
I said they were going to win like 41-3.
Oh, okay, that's right. All right. So after we got off track and started talking about LSU Bama for some reason, Zach, let's go ahead and talk about our next big conference championship game.
Number 3 Clemson versus number 23 West Virginia.
All right, so we got Deshaun Watson.
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech.
Oh,
My
Virginia
bad.
Tech.
I'm sorry.
All right, so number 3 Clemson versus number 23 Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech keeps hopping in and out of the top 25 every other week. They keep hopping in and out. But I think this one is going to be an easy win for Clemson. I think Deshaun Watson, I'm not impressed with the way he's playing this year. He turns the ball over too much. He's not as consistent as he was last year. But I am very, very impressed with Mike Williams, especially last week with Mike Williams. So I'm taking Clemson in this one. I think it's going to be just like a typical Clemson game to where they control the game the whole time, but it's not going to be a huge win. I say probably about a 10 to 14 point victory because I don't know. I just don't see Clemson. I think they have to win this to get into the playoff, but they're not going to change anything up. So I'm just taking Clemson on this one. I think this one's a pretty easy call.
Once again, Dylan, we disagree.
This is going to be great.
I'm going Virginia Tech on the sole fact of their quarterback, Evans. He is playing lights out, has thrown over 3,000 yards this year, 26 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, Dylan.
Yeah. Notice I didn't say anything about defense, though, because I think defense is not going to be
and
a big
the
factor
reason
in this
why
game.
I'm taking Virginia Tech is they are a team that can upset Clemson.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And Clemson has been playing with fire all year long. You saw they got burned against Pittsburgh. And it's really a gut feeling. I feel like Virginia Tech's going to come in there off a huge win against their rival in Virginia. I know it's Virginia, but it was a huge win for them. Get confidence boosted up and get ready to take on the Titan of Clemson.
Another thing, I think Clemson's going to win, but I think another reason that they're going to try to win somewhat, and they're going to try to win impressively. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think they want to go to 4 and have to play Alabama again in the first game of the playoffs.
I'm disagreeing with you. I think Virginia Tech's going to knock them out of the playoff.
Okay. I'm going to write that down. All right, Zach. This is our second to last game, our last championship game. What is it?
Wisconsin versus Penn State.
All right, number 6, Wisconsin versus number 7, Penn State. I'll let you go first, Jay. We'll consider this the last one.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
This is a tough one. This one's just as tough as Colorado, Washington to me.
Honestly, I think give me the Badgers.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Hey,
I'm taking Wisconsin.
This is a coin flip.
I'm taking Wisconsin win this game. I think their defense is just better, in my opinion. I think their defense will put their offense in better spots than Penn State will. Don't get me wrong. I think this will be around a 5-point victory for them, but I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game. I don't think anybody gets past 28 points.
Yeah, this is going to be a big defensive ball game.
I just have a strong feeling that Wisconsin's defense, it's so strong against the run, and they cover great. Yeah. And with Penn State's running back Barkley getting hurt against Michigan State, even though he's probably going to play in this game, I think Wisconsin's going to take advantage of that and just pin their ears back and come after him and go after McSorley too. I just can't see Wisconsin's defense breaking against a somewhat banged up Penn State offense. Yeah. So the reason why I'm picking this game is solely on Wisconsin's defense.
Yeah. I think, first, everyone's freaking out about Penn State. If they win, are they going to make it into the playoff? But my question is, I know Wisconsin doesn't have like a big win like Ohio State, but Wisconsin's number 6, Penn State's number 7. So no matter who wins this game, there's going to be some backlash from people, or at least fans from these teams of why they think they should be in the playoff, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going Wisconsin too. I think, like you said, I saw when Barkley got hurt. When I saw that, I thought that was somewhat a game changer for this one. With Wisconsin's rushing defense, we saw what they could do against LSU when they had a healthy Fournette, a healthy Geis, and a Brandon Harris who could run, and he just didn't. So what I saw in that game and all season long, they're only allowing 100 yards a game rushing. So in Penn State,
and that's against Ohio State and Michigan too.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, though, but Penn State's been on such a roll since they beat Ohio State. Like they've been pretty impressive. They weren't impressive last week.
But honestly,
but I'm just saying. But they're playing really hot right now. They've got confidence, which is a big key in football. You don't have to have the most skilled players. You just got to be able to think you're the most skilled players.
Yeah, I don't think that. But really, who has Penn State played in the Big Ten? That's a powerhouse right now.
I'm not saying, Jay, that their wins are impressive. All I'm saying is that they're
blowing people out, but
they're playing with confidence. They have confidence, which is a huge factor in football. As like Oklahoma last year, after they beat Texas and they blew.
I mean, they lost to Texas.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they lost to Texas. Then they had one blowout win. And they got their confidence back. All that stuff. That's what Penn State's playing with right now. But I think the Badgers defense, led by J.J. Watt 2.0, little brother T.J. Watt. I think I'm taking the Badgers in like you said, a real defensive football game. I think it's going to be one in the trenches for sure. The offensive line for both teams are going to have to play well. I'm going to say third down passes are going to be a huge factor in this game. I think both teams have a great defensive line, so I'm thinking offensive lines are going to be X factor for both teams.
Oh yeah.
So, all right. So you picked. We both picked Wisconsin. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about real quick the only game next week. One of my favorite games of the year. I love the Navy-Army football game.
It's so exciting to watch.
It really is. And the best tradition in college football with the prisoner exchange. And have you heard about the prisoner exchange?
No.
It's where for the semester of football season, two people from Navy go to the Army Academy and take classes, and vice versa. An Army people go to Navy to take classes. And basically they get picked on, pranked all the time for that whole semester, and then right before the game they have the prisoner exchange to where everybody who was at Navy or at Army, they go back with them and they watch the game with their fellow midshipmen or Black Knights. So it's a really cool thing. Everyone freaks out about it. It's really cool to watch. They show it every year. So next week, make sure you watch this game. Beforehand, it's very exciting. It's really cool. They always talk about the prisoner exchange. But also, this game is it's so personal for both of these teams because they've never really played for a championship, or Navy hasn't played for a championship in a very long time. Army, I'm not even sure if they really ever have. But this is their Super Bowl. This is their national championship. It's the Go Army beat Navy or Go Navy beat Army game. It's very exciting. Living with someone who was in the Navy for a couple of years, we watched this game every year when I was going to school. It's just so exciting. That's when I learned to love it, when I found out how personal it is to everybody, not just on the football field, but in each branch of the military. So it's a really cool game to watch, but of course I'm going to take Navy just because I love them this year.
All right. You know what? With how well Army has been playing this year,
yeah, for sure.
I'm going to just make it interesting, and I'm going Army.
All right, yeah, I don't blame you on that one. They have been playing very well this year, a lot better than they have in the past years. They actually have a winning record. I haven't seen them have a winning record in a couple of years, I don't think. But yeah, I'm really happy about that. So, all right, before we go,
you wrote Navy down, didn't you, for me?
Dang it, I did, didn't I? All right, but Jay, let's go ahead because this is the last week of Lamar Jackson before he probably wins the Heisman. But with this past game, we're going to go ahead and transition into the Heisman talk. So, with this past game with Lamar Jackson having 4 turnovers and costly fumble that basically ended the game for Memphis to get the win. I mean, not against Memphis. Against, for Louisville to lose the game. I think with his performance, he still had over 400 yards, but it wasn't a typical Lamar Jackson. But a lot of people are saying who are voting, they're already come out saying they're still voting for Lamar Jackson. But who do you think is going to be invited to New York? Do you think it's going to be 3 people, 4 people? Who do you think is going to be invited with Lamar Jackson?
I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to get invited.
All right, shut up.
No, really. With his performances over the past month.
Do you want to make a bet on that one?
I'm kidding.
Oh my God! Okay,
I think it's going to be
gosh.
4. I think it's going to be 4, and I think it's going to be Lamar Jackson, of course, with the way these numbers he put up in September were just crazy. So I'm going Lamar Jackson. I'm taking the 2 Oklahoma duos with Baker Mayfield and D.D. Westbrook, and I'm going to Deshaun Watson.
Okay. All right. Well, I think Jackson, of course, Mayfield. I'm going to say Mayfield finally gets an invitation. I think D.D. Westbrook deserves an invitation, but I don't think that they would invite. It's either going to be Mayfield or Westbrook. I don't think both will. Then I think Jake Browning from Washington, I think will get an invite just because he's having a great season and it's a Cinderella season for Washington. But then also it's going to be Deshaun Watson. Like as I said, he's going to get invited, but he does not deserve it at all. I don't think he has a chance to win. I think he might finish behind Browning even in the voting just because of his turnovers. But I'm excited to see which Oklahoma player gets invited.
Who's your winner?
Who's my winner? Who I think is going to win or who do I think deserves to win? Like so, my like if I had to vote in a Heisman, you ask me who I'd vote for.
Yeah,
I would vote for just to make it interesting because there's no one around him in his stats. I would say D.D. Westbrook because there's no one in the country.
Well, out of who you invited, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Out of who you invited.
Okay, well, I think Mayfield will get invited before Westbrook just because it's a quarterback award usually now, sometimes a running back. But if I had to choose, not on stats.
But on the way he leads his team.
On the way he leads his team, it would definitely be Mayfield. But, it would either be Mayfield or Jake Browning. I think Lamar Jackson's been incredible this season. It's stunning, actually. I think he's even more impressive than Johnny Manziel. He's just not as enthusiastic as Johnny Manziel was at Texas A&M. He doesn't show. Yeah, he's a little show off. He's not like Johnny Manziel. He wasn't so polarizing like Manziel was. And I don't think he's a drug head either. But I just think, I don't think he deserves it as much. He did play, Syracuse and have 7 touchdowns against Syracuse and all that. Leonard Fournette last
So
year
you're saying
you
think Jackson's going to win it?
I think Jackson's going to win it because that's what all the people who are voting say. You never know. Trump won the election. You never know what's going to happen in this.
I mean, if Mayfield comes out and throws for 6 touchdowns
if
and
Mayfield
500 yards against...
If Mayfield and Westbrook have a huge game, they'll both get invited. But I'm saying Westbrook needs to have like 3 touchdowns and like 200 and something yards. Mayfield needs to have like a rushing touchdown and like 4 touchdowns to possibly have it. They have to impress a lot of people.
I think out of the 4 people between Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson, D.D. Westbrook, and Lamar Jackson, who I think deserves it is I think Mayfield does. Because honestly, I know, okay, for all our viewers, you might think that we're picking that off of bias with Oklahoma. But if you look at his stats, he's thrown for just as many yards as Lamar Jackson. Has he thrown for more? He's thrown for more touchdowns, hasn't he, Dylan?
Do not think so.
I'm pretty sure he has. Lamar Jackson's only in the 20s, Dylan. Mayfield's almost in the 40s.
I'm not sure, bud.
And his completion percentage at 71% is the highest in FBS. And when he throws it for 30 or more yards down the field, he is 75%. And that is just unheard of.
Yeah, no,
so that's why I would pick him, but it's not biased. I'm just saying that based on
it's not.
Stats.
But I know I sound hypocritical what I've been saying this whole season. But when I was talking about who I think is going to get invited, I didn't put in Jabril Peppers, who I think actually deserves the Heisman more than anybody on this list of mine. He plays sometimes over 80% of the snaps a game. And he had a big defensive showing against Ohio State.
Had a pick.
He had a clutch pick actually, and he's incredible. He's not going to get
Wasn't that his
invited.
first interception of the year?
No, he's had a few. He's played 18 different positions this year, which is unheard of, and it's going to be sad because he's not coming back next year.
Yeah,
his mom's already interviewing NFL agents, so it's going to suck not seeing him back. But I really think just of what he does. I think he deserves it more than anybody. But I don't even think he's going to get invited. I think he should at least get invited for what he did. Ndamukong Suh got invited.
Tyrann Mathieu got invited.
Yes. So maybe if they have a person like this, I would love to see. Jabril Peppers there. But I really hope it happens. But I don't think it's going to.
All right, Dylan. And for our final segment of our show, who do you think is going to be your 4 that gets selected on Sunday?
All right. So let's just go.
We both know Alabama.
Yeah.
So you got Alabama as your 1. I got Alabama as my 1.
I don't know what to freaking think about this stupid Big Ten crap. Or even the Pac-12. Let's say if Colorado beats Washington in a very convincing way, I don't know what to think about that. I really don't. Say if Wisconsin loses to Penn State and Colorado destroys Washington, I don't know what's going to happen. But okay, but from what I picked, I think it's going to be number 1 Alabama going to play number 4 Washington.
Okay.
And then, of course, I think it's going to stay the exact same. I think it might just get flipped around to where Clemson's number 2 and Ohio State's number 3 because Ohio State didn't play in their championship game.
All right. So you're saying the Big Ten champion does not get in?
I don't see it. No, I don't think that's fair. Well, okay, I think it's fair if you think about it, because if you go onto the website and read the criteria the college football committee is supposed to follow, they have somewhere in there to where it talks about the best 4 teams, and it says the way a non-conference champion can get into the college football playoff if they are drastically better than the team that beat them. And they are drastically better than Penn State, I think. That game was at Penn State during the whiteout game. And that game was determined on a blocked field goal that got returned for a touchdown. So if you're going to put Penn State ahead of Ohio State because of a special teams fluke, then I don't think you really understand what the college football playoff is about. The criteria is not what they have to be. It's what they use to compare. And something they use to compare is, basically kind of like an eye test, a drastically better football team. If you put Penn State against Oklahoma at the beginning of the year, I don't think Penn State would have beat Oklahoma.
No.
At all. If you put Michigan versus Penn State last week, Penn State would have maybe gotten drove by Michigan, because Michigan and Ohio State are drastically better than Penn State. Michigan proved that earlier in the season. So don't pull that crap with me about Penn State deserves to be in it because they beat Ohio State and they might win the Big Ten championship. No, Wisconsin doesn't even really have a great resume. They beat LSU, who turned out to be really nothing this year. That's really about it. Their defense is definitely. I think their defense would do great in the playoff. I think they'd perform well. But their offense, the quarterback getting hurt in Bart Houston, Clement would be like their only offensive weapon. So you can't really make that decision either. So, like I said, I think it's going to be Bama, Washington, then against Clemson, Ohio State. But I think the numbers get flopped after this week because Clemson's going to be a conference champion.
Well, with my predictions of what's going to happen this week, it's going to be very crazy of who gets in.
Crazy. I'm sorry.
Well, Alabama's going to be number 1, that's for sure. I think Ohio State's going to stay at 2.
Well, you got Clemson out.
Yeah, Clemson's going to be out. Washington's going to be out.
So who do you got at 3 and 4, dude? You didn't think about this, did you?
I did think about this, Dylan. You know what I think might happen, Dylan?
What?
If Oklahoma is to Dylan, look at me right now.
I'm looking.
Look at me. You were saying teams being drastically better, and you're saying that the Big Ten champion does not get in?
Okay. If Clemson loses and Washington loses, oh no, the Big Ten champion would get in.
Are you sure? Do you think they would surpass Michigan?
See, that's the one thing that it would be. It would be...
Because guess what, Dylan? My number 3 would be Oklahoma.
Of course.
They would put Oklahoma at number 3 because they are a conference champion. They would surpass Michigan, and Michigan would be 4.
JD, Michigan, in my eyes, is one of the top teams in the country. I think they got cheated out of that game a little bit, not because of that first down call, but on a couple other things.
I believe if with Clemson losing, with Washington losing, that opens a door for Oklahoma if they have a huge win against Oklahoma State.
If Washington and Clemson both lost, that would bring Michigan. I think that would bring Michigan to 4 to where we could see an Ohio State-Michigan championship. How freaking crazy! Well, I'm sorry, no. Yeah, how freaking crazy would that be?
And how crazy would this be, Dylan? Michigan versus Alabama in the semifinal.
Exactly. No, this is what the playoff was for. It was made to piss everybody off for 6 weeks in the season and then piss people off for a month. Then when it gets here, it's like, oh, I love the playoff system. It's amazing. Because they set up the games everybody wants. They want the top 4 teams to play, and I believe the committee really does pick the top 4 teams, which is why I don't think the conference champion, in most cases, like this Big Ten, is a big factor. I really don't. And so if because if we had conference champions in, and say if Colorado beat Washington, and we say Penn State beat Wisconsin, and say Virginia Tech won the ACC. Say if we have like Power 5 conference champions always in the playoff, we'd have Virginia Tech against Alabama. No one wants to see that. Virginia Tech was at the Independence Bowl last year.
No, they weren't.
Yes, they did. They played Tulsa last year.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, they played in the Independence Bowl. They played in the Toilet Bowl. But
okay. I know that my prediction sounds crazy.
I know what you're saying. I'm just.
But
I hate the whole Big Ten.
Does that not sound crazy though? Does that not sound like it could happen?
No, it could happen. It's just if that happens, it's going to be havoc everywhere. I think the committee is
for my viewers. When I picked for our viewers, I did not intend on my playoff prediction being that way when I was picking my games. I picked my games off solely what I think was going to happen.
Because you're not the committee. You cannot control what happens.
This is just what I think the committee will think. If everything I predicted is right when it comes to the major conference championship games, that's what I think is going to happen.
Why is Condoleezza Rice on this selection committee? If you go look at her Twitter, I don't think she has time to watch college football on a Saturday. Because all she does is post all this politics stuff. Does she have her husband or somebody watch the games and have him give his advice, and that's what she goes and does?
I don't know, man.
That really makes me upset that she's on there. I love that she served the country, as the secretary. But why is she on there? I just don't understand. Maybe she likes football. I don't know. But anyway, all right. Anyway, guys. This was a great show. I am so excited for this conference championship week. I'm excited for bowl season. Then I'm going to cry afterward, and I'm going to cry when Super Bowl is over. Then I'll just be happy with basketball. But thank y'all for joining anyways. JD, thank you for coming. Zach, thanks for controlling the boards. And as always, God bless.
See y'all.
God, wow, freaking.